Hi everybody, and thanks for joining me today. All right, so we're now working on Goron Link. At least the first section of him. Yeah, I got a little bit of his hat. Now we're gonna work probably on his arm more this session today. So I had technical difficulties this morning. I sat down and made a video, and my camera was in slow mode. Ugh. I always check that, but I don't know. Somehow it ended up in that way, so it's not usable. So here we go again. So if I repeat myself, I apologize because I can't remember what I talked about this time and then last time and the time before. It all starts to sort of blend together after a while, so oh well. Sometimes that just happens. Ugh. Yeah, I'm a bit tired today, so I think my brain is not quite firing on all cylinders today. Maybe it's good I had to retake it. I made quite a few mistakes in the last session, so although, yeah, I had 180 stitches when I started this session, so yeah. I generally have a daily goal of about 400, but of course sometimes that fluctuates depending on how much time and how much detail there is in the section I am stitching. So, okay, it's a fair amount of confetti, I think, here. 30, 32. Although I do see some sections of color a little lower down, so yeah, I guess it'll be a mix. Oh, so yeah, I totally jinxed us when I said it hadn't been cold, because then we had a day of -40 yesterday. -40 is the same in Celsius and Fahrenheit, so yeah. But then it's warm, and then it's supposed to be above freezing for the next few days, so yeah, it's just wild. I just, like I always say, would rather it stayed below freezing until it's actually spring, because yeah, we have quite a ways for that. Yeah, there's all the jokes about Groundhog Day and, 6 more weeks of winter, but for us, if there's only 6 more weeks of winter, then that's good. Because yeah, it's usually not actually spring here until April, maybe even May sometimes. One year, it actually snowed enough, end of May, it was like May 29th or something, and it snowed enough that my husband and son made a snowman in our yard. And I mean, it melted in an hour, but still, I mean, enough snow fell and stuck around long enough that they were able to make a ruddy snowman, when it was almost June. Like, come on, that's just wrong. Okay, 38.63. But yeah, I have to say, thankfully, I mean, at least the days are starting to get a bit longer. It's not quite so depressing. When I go to cook dinner, I don't have to turn all the lights on right away in the kitchen. So, yeah. Yeah, I think they say that each day gains like 4 minutes or something. Yeah. I'm not sure, though. I'd have to look that up, so don't quote me on it. Yeah, I love Christmas time, but then I would like it if, like, sort of right after we had spring. It can be cold and snowy just for Christmas and then go away. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Well, that was why my grandparents, after they retired, they sold their house and they bought an RV park model and portable, an actual portable RV. And so they would actually travel 6 months out of the year and then come back for 6 months out of the year. So they would go down south to the States where it was warmer and travel around there. And then, and then they would come back for our summer, so we would see them then. Yeah, it was wild because they went from a really big house because they had they had 5 kids, And they had a turn-of-the-century house that actually still had servants' quarters and servant stairs in it. Yeah. So then they sold that, and yeah, they lived the nomad life for a while. So that was pretty cool. Of course, yeah, with gas prices the way they are now, I'm not sure how feasible that would be. Yeah, my dad said in that house growing up, you know, they would play hide and seek, and that meant sometimes if somebody was coming up the main stairs, you could go down the back servant stairs and hide somewhere else if they were getting close to finding you. Yeah, I often did really well as hiding and hide and seek because I'm small and I could fit into lots of really small places that people didn't think to look. One time we were at my aunt and uncle's, so we were playing it with our cousins, and they had this room that was full of boxes, but one box had been sort of pulled out from the center of the others, and it was this little space, just like, you know, 3 by 3 feet, but I was like 11, so I was tiny. And yeah, I was able to sort of lower myself in there and just sort of tuck my limbs on top and just hide in there. And they had to tell me to come out because they gave up. They couldn't find me. I almost took a nap in there, so yeah, it was funny. Good thing I don't snore, right? That would have given me away. Ugh. Yeah, or my sister one time, she went in the closet and she wrapped herself in one of the big hanging long coats, and she stood in a pair of boots. So if you opened up the closet, it just looked like clothes in there. Yeah, and she got me. I couldn't find her. It was so funny because I remember I was playing with my son and he didn't quite get the concept yet. So I came into a room and, you know, I said to myself, I wonder where he is. And then then he says, not here. It's like, okay. Or he would always giggle when he came into the room. So it's like, that kind of gave it away, dude. Yeah, I wonder if when he gets old enough to have kids, will kids still play that, or is everything going to be electronics, right? Yeah, it was funny. Somebody said they told their kids, go play outside. And the kids were like, what's out? They thought it was a game, like a video game called Outside. It's like, no, I meant go play outside. Is it actually go run around, you know, get some fresh air, throw a ball around or something. Or the ones where the kids took the Wii controllers and they were playing through the window. Well, we're outside. Like, oh, kids are just natural lawyers, hey? Oh, I remember one time we were visiting our in-laws, and he started poking at the buttons on the TV, and we said, don't touch. So he grabs his finger and starts poking at the buttons using Dad's finger. It's like, well, technically, he's not the one touching it. Oh, or there was a lady saying, she told her kids when they went to play outside, she said, don't you step 1 foot in a mud puddle. So the kids lay down in the mud puddle with their feet outside of it. Like, yeah. They're very good at hair splitting, aren't they? Now, technically, we didn't step a foot in the mud puddle, Mom. Or I remember there was a grocery store my mom went to that had a play area for the kids, so we loved it there. And then when you left, you could take like a little bag of popcorn, and my mom would always say, oh, don't eat the whole thing. So we would like leave, you know, one kernel of corn in the bottom. I didn't eat the whole thing, Mom. Yeah, or like when, you know, you put your finger right up to a sibling's cheek, like, you know, half an inch away, and then, oh, you can't get mad, I'm not touching you, right? Yeah, they said siblings are like, you know, either, you know, don't you dare even breathe on me, or I'll help you hide the body and no in between. It's funny because somebody said, why is that the measure of how good a friendship is? It says, I'll do anything for you, but please don't make me dig a hole. You know, I'm not going to do that. Okay. So this is Goron Link's arm here. We'll get more of him in the next diagonal. Man, that, I remember the ice temple. That one was tough, I found, because you had to keep moving the level of the bricks in the middle to get to different levels on that. I found it actually more confusing than the water temple was in Ocarina of Time. Everyone complained about that one. I didn't find that one that bad. People joked about, you know, being stuck there forever. That one wasn't that hard for me. But yeah, the ice temple in the Majora's Mask, I found that one much tougher. Especially because it was so easy to accidentally fall down the center and then you had to climb all the way up again. Like, oh, it was so frustrating. And there was no warping magic in that one because I did that in Ocarina of Time. There was a area you could reach with the scarecrow in the fire temple, which could get you one of the golden spiders and also could get you $200, but you had to like hit a switch and run really fast right around the inside to get it so it was open and you could fall like several stories. So what I would do was I would cast a warp point in that room, and then that way if I fell I could just warp right back to it. Yeah, I figured that out after quite a few times of falling and being so frustrated. But actually, the Luigi brothers that I mentioned before, they showed that if you fall down in the ice temple in Majora's Mask, the Snowhead Temple, if you change yourself to Deku Link and climb into one of the lava pits because it kills him, you will respawn back where you fell. And I was like, well, sheesh, I sure wish I had known that years ago. Oh, instead of having to, you know, push buttons and smash the ice bricks and stuff back and forth to get up and down how many times. Because, yeah, if you fell, you had to reset, climb up, punch some of the bricks out, you know, and then, oh, it was just, yeah, so frustrating. Lost track of how many times I had to do that because I kept falling. And crossing was hard because you had to hit it at just the right speed for Goron Link's spikes to come out so that you could clear the gap. Because if you didn't, yeah, then you fell. You had to try again. So yeah, if you do the trick where you immediately go in the lava pit as Deku Link, you lose a heart, but it's still less trouble than having to climb all the way back up again. So I would have parked this for the last 3 stitches, but that thread was just not long enough. Yeah, I had a few times last session where I had parked threads and forgotten to mark them. So then I ended up thinking that I'd parked something incorrectly, but I hadn't. I just hadn't made my pattern match. So I was like, darn it. Okay. So, oh no, this goes one more over. Let's just count it from the grid lines to double check. Yeah, if I'm parking based off of other threads, a lot of times I'll try to cross check it with the grid lines just to make sure, because if I park one wrong, then I can end up parking a whole bunch wrong based on the one that I did first wrong. So yeah, I have to be careful of that. So yeah, I've still been rewatching Cold Case, and it's made me discover a lot of music I'd forgotten about. Yeah, whoever picks the music for that show did a really good job, because they always picked something that wasn't just popular that year that the case is taking place in, but also something that fits with the story that they're telling. So yeah, that was one of the reasons you couldn't buy it on DVD, because they didn't pay for the distribution rights, because that show came out sort of before releasing TV shows on DVD became a thing. And yeah, so they only bought the broadcast rights, which I guess counts for streaming too, and not the distribution rights. So yeah, and like somebody said, yeah, the option would be also to take the music out, but I mean, you can't do that. It was an integral part of the story, as far as I'm concerned. It would just be wrong to take it out. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why they still haven't released the Wonder Years, which I know a lot of people have wanted. They did a reboot of that one they're doing now. Yeah, really enjoying it. It's in the same kind of style. You know, the main character, you hear his thoughts and stuff always running in the background, and yeah. But they changed it a little. They tell it from the perspective of a black family this time. So yeah, I kind of liked the it's the same and yet a bit different, you know, similar format, but a little bit of a different outlook, and I'm quite enjoying it. Yeah, it's funny because it's like they became those characters forever. I don't even know what the actor's name is who played his dad, but every time we see him in something, he's like, oh, look, it's Kevin's dad, right? From the original series. Like, that's who he is forever. That's kind of like Brent Spiner said, you know, nobody, he's played a lot of parts, but nobody knows him as anything but Data from Star Trek. Yeah. Okay, so I have two places I could park this. I could park it over here to the right or further down here. Because it's a longer piece, I'm going to go down here because I can carry on with it. I can see there's quite a few stitches down there, and there's only one here. So instead, I'm going to use one small leftover piece for that one stitch there. If this was really short, then I would park it over there and start a new thread when I got down here. So yeah, where I decide to park it depends on those factors: how long this thread still is, how many stitches there are to do if there's two different places to park, and yeah, stuff like that, whether I want to add a new thread or not. So that can yeah, that can change things. Try that again. Okay. Oh, look at that. We're going to hit a total of 18,000 stitches very soon. Sweet. Yeah, my goal is to hit 50% by the end of this month. So we will see. So my goal is I try to hit one more percentage point each month on Firefly now that I've decided to start rotating that in. And then, yeah, whatever I get on this one, which is about... so I started this month at 33%, like exactly 33.00. So I'm hoping to get to 50. So that's another 17%, which I think is doable. So I've been working on my focus piece about 75% of the time, and then I work on the Firefly about 25% of the time. Because yeah, I think trying to tackle all of Firefly start to finish at once, if I was working on just it, I think I'd get burned out. It's the biggest project I have ever attempted. So yeah. Like I've seen some gorgeous ones that are like close to 1,000,000 stitches, but I don't think I'd be willing to invest that many stitches into one project, like I've said before. Yeah. Not when I can get, you know, like 3 or 4 nice size projects, but not as huge with the same number of stitches. Yeah, there's just so many pictures I want to create. But I admire people who do. Yeah. Maybe if I started doing tent stitching, it'd be more doable, but I don't know. I like cross. So I think if I was going to do tent stitching, it would have to be if I was working on a much higher count of fabric, which, yeah, my eyes don't like, so I haven't done it. Yeah, even 18 I find a little small. Oh, I did the bottom one of these first, didn't I? Yep. That's okay, no problem. Yeah, I did this one first, then this one, but that's so close, it's no problem. At least I didn't do anything incorrectly, so we're good. Okay. So yeah, I'm hoping they renew the Wonder Years because it's kind of on the bubble. It's going to be, the next season starts in summer, so we're definitely watching it, yeah. We've been enjoying it. And yeah, there's funny parts in there, like, what was it? There's one part where she says, I want my son to be, you know, a kind, sensitive man. And then his dad says, like his father. Like his father, right? Oh, and then his mom walks off and he says, she meant that. It was implied, you know. And it's funny too because his dad's a musician, so at one point he's actually, the song he's performing is the theme music from the original Wonder Years. So yeah, I love when they do, you know, little nods to that, like that. A bit of confetti here. Okay, I have a thread part lower down here, so I'm actually going to probably carry that thread back up, is what I'm thinking. Yeah, because if I tried to start it up here, I would end up closing some stuff in, I can see right now. So okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here and I'm going to start working my way back out, I think. Oh, that actually means I think I will be picking up this lower thread of that color. Yeah, that's just how it worked out. And then I'm going to start working my way back upwards instead of downwards. So depending on the colors that influences which direction I will stitch in, but either way it's still working from that, you know, top left edge down towards the lower right of the diagonal. Yeah, and then this here will be the bottom of the diagonal and here's the edge, so yeah, be reaching the bottom of it and then starting back at the top of the diagonal again soon. So it takes about a day and a half to get to get it complete from the top to the bottom diagonal. Okay, so now pick that J stitch, 3781. Yeah, no more zeros yet on this pattern. But as usual, they all come, you know, in the final pass. Yeah, we're still not even halfway through. My last pattern, it took me until like 40% before I reached any zeros, or maybe it was even half, I'm not sure, but yeah, it took quite a while. And then I didn't hit any for a long time after that. It wasn't until like 70% that I hit another zero, so yeah. Yeah, that was the most confetti heavy piece I've ever done so far. But yeah, I'm definitely very happy with the result. Yeah, and if you want to see pictures, you can check my Insta. And I also have some videos featuring it as well. So I'm thinking this one, when I mount it, I will probably mount it on black fabric and also mount Ocarina of Time on black. So even though, of course, one's going to be much bigger than the other, because Ocarina of Time is like, oh gee, over 200,000, I know that much. And it's on 18 count, it's quite large. This is a small little, like I said, less than 50,000. It's got a fuzzy there. Just gonna coax it to go back to the back side. There we go. Yeah, I made a couple of Dimensions angels years ago. This was before I started doing full coverage. And I bought the cloth. It was kind of this oatmeal color. And I didn't realize how often they can often discontinue things. And yeah, when I went to go do the second one, which was like, you know, 3 or 4 years later, because I was a much slower stitcher then, it had been discontinued. And this was before like internet shopping was as easy to get stuff as it is now. So I went to every craft store in town, and I even went through all the kits because I thought, well, I'll just steal the cloth from there and use a plain white one in the kit when I stitch it up later so that they would match. But unfortunately, yeah, it was not attainable. And so I ended up having to do the second one on a cream because that was the closest I could get. So, but I have them sort of, they hang up on opposite sides of my my big bay window, so it's not quite as obvious that the colors don't match. But yeah, see, now I know enough that if I was going to do that, I would buy enough cloth to make both up front, and then that way there'd be no issues with them matching. Just like I like to buy all of my threads, embroidery threads up front, and that way I don't have to worry about dye lot issues later. Yeah, because one of my friends, she says she has a lot of older stuff from her mom who doesn't stitch anymore, and so she has to make a note of it of, okay, use the new stuff when there's big blocks and use the older stuff when it's scattered in confetti, because yeah, you don't want any lines showing where you changed, where the dye lot changed. Yeah, because I saw that on somebody had been doing one, and it had a twilight sky, and it was like this light purpley. And then, yeah, when they bought new stuff, it didn't match, and it was a very visible line through. And it was like, oh no, you know, so much beautiful work, and oops, that line there distracting you, you know, from the beautiful stitching. Yeah, they said one thing you can do too is if you're using more than one strand, you can use, like say if you're using 2 strands, you can use one strand of the old and one strand of the new blended together, and then that way it can make it more seamless. But yeah, unfortunately, like I said, for this person who had done the sky, they didn't realize that there could be an issue, so they didn't think to do that. And so it was either discard the piece or, you know, do a lot of picking, a lot of frogging, which is not very fun either. Yeah, which is why when I used the wrong color on my first start of the Marvelous Garden, I used the 01 white tin instead of the white, the one white. I didn't end up picking it out because it was 10,000 stitches, so I just restarted it, and I'm gonna use that fabric for a smaller pattern and then cut off my screw up. Because yeah, I was like, oh, I have to unpick this all, and I said, people like, no, don't do that. You'll go mad. And yeah, they're probably right. Even I had to pick out like 30 stitches of the wrong color, and that had me frustrated. Ugh. Yeah, there's some people, they use a seam ripper and go right across, but I'd be so nervous about cutting my actual fabric. And I mean, I know there are ways to fix that. People can weave another thread into the gap and stuff, but yeah, again, that's something that you'd rather avoid in the first place than try to fix later. That's for sure. Okay, all right, so now we've worked our way back to this color that I said I was going to carry upwards. So, and I can do it that way without closing stuff in, as far as I can tell from looking at it right now. Yeah, I can plan ahead a bit. Okay. Nope, that did not get both. Okay, so these two, of course, watch after all that, this leftover piece won't even stretch that far. So I did all that planning and it was unnecessary. We'll see. So those two where I just parked it are kind of out of the diagonal, but I'm going to end up probably doing them anyway because of just the way the colors go. Like I've said before in other videos, I'm not strict with my diagonals. They're just a rough guide for me. I let the colors tell me what to do. Yeah, and then I think not next diagonal, but the one after, be working on the main link in the center of the pattern with the Mask of Truth. Oh, come on. Oh. There. Just had an itch on my back that was hard to reach. I have to be careful too because I have hypermobile joints, so I have to be careful not to stretch too far. Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch for this short piece, so I'm going to tie this off and save these leftover bits for single stitches later. But yeah, as I was saying, I have to be careful not to stretch too far because I can injure myself quite easily if I don't watch it. Really does not take much to put my neck out, especially. It was was kind of threatening to do that last night, so I'm hoping I caught it early enough with using my muscle rub and some stretches that it won't lock up on me. Oh, that was threaded, but I unthreaded it because, yeah, it was too short anyway. Probably shouldn't have bothered even trying to leave it threaded. Yeah, and I'm going to tie this off. It's too short to reach to those 3 stitches over there to the right and stitch them, so no point. I'll add a new thread, a shorter one, when I get there if I have it. Okay. Okay, yeah, quite a bit of confetti. That'll slow us down a little bit. Yeah, look at that, 18,027. So yeah, exactly 50% is going to be exactly 24,000 stitches. And that is doable in a month, usually, for me. So, yeah, I think I did the calculations. I do about 12 to 15,000 stitches a month. Just like I say, depends on how much time and how much confetti. So yeah, like doing that calculation, that means I do about 150,000 stitches per year, you know, maybe 200,000 on a good a good stitching year without too much confetti. So a project with over 1 million stitches would be a 5-year commitment if I worked on nothing else. So yeah, that's a lot. Okay, so I have one part there, but I'm going to take that one over to the right. So I'm going to start a new thread here and carry it downwards. Yeah. So I could have carried this other thread that's already parked up here with the triangle stitches downward, but then that means I would be doing something out of order because the clover stitches are coming up, that one's coming down, so sometimes that happens. So sometimes I do them out of order, sometimes I add another thread like I'm doing here. Yeah, just all depends. Okay. Yeah, and some of these ones that I'm parking lower down here, I'm not bothering to leave them threaded at the moment because I don't want to cause a tangle. It's going to be a bit till I get there, and yeah, if it tangles, then I end up spending more time untangling it, and so it doesn't really save me any time by leaving it threaded. So kind of juggle between the two. Okay, let's see what we've got. Okay, perfect. Oh. I'll feed you in a bit, Buster. You're not starving, you've got hay. And pellets. And water, so you're good. Okay. Okay. Let's make sure that's the right one. Yeah. There's a few similar colored ones here, so I have to be careful. I'm not mixing them up, so grid lines are very useful. Okay, and that is definitely out of the diagonal, so I'm going to unthread that. Almost done this edge here. Okay. 38, 37. Might need to replace a couple of my envelopes. Eventually I find along the folds, they kind of wear out a bit, especially the colors I use a lot. So yeah, then I just replace them with a new one, recycle the old one. That's another reason I like using the envelopes instead of the bags, is a little less plastic. I mean, unfortunately, we can't get away from it entirely, but if there's an option, then I do that. Yes, like I don't like buying eggs that are in styrofoam containers because that stuff doesn't biodegrade. So yeah, I prefer to buy the ones that are in cardboard. I mean, I know it's not a huge impact, but I try. It's something small that I can do. So plus I just don't like styrofoam. Ugh, it's so squeaky and ick. Yeah, it's like I saw a video where somebody's kid had burst open the beanbag chair, and then of course the you know, the little styrofoam peanuts inside were everywhere, and it's like, oh, my skin was crawling just looking at it, knowing how bad that stuff sticks to you. And the more you try to brush it away, of course, the worse it gets, right? Because it's static electricity and it's stuck to you. So yeah. It's funny, we have a picture of my son when he was a baby, and my husband was dragging him along the couch, and then his hair was all standing up fully charged. Yeah, and he's all smiling. He liked it. Yeah, and then I captioned it, "Fun with static electricity." Zap. His little baby hair just, yeah, completely puffing out like a dandelion puff. It was so cute. Yeah, that was a long time ago. It seems like yesterday, but he's definitely not that little anymore. He's taller than me now. Which, like I say, doesn't take a lot, but still. It's kind of a shock that it's like, no, I was able to carry you with one arm. How are you taller than me now? Pretty soon you're going to be able to pick me up. Okay, good. So, almost got this filled out here. Like I said, going past the diagonal a little, but that's okay. And then I'm going to head back into the left again and work my way back out towards the right, as I usually do. Lots of pin stitches here because lots of confetti. That's another reason I like pin stitches, is I find it helps reduce the bulk on the back than if you have, you know, so many ended off threads. And I actually find the pin stitches a little more secure, especially because you stitch over them later. So yeah, they're very secure. I've noticed the difference when I've had to undo a thread that was secured with a pin stitch versus one that was secured drawn across the back. Yeah, the one with the pin stitch is definitely more secure. I mean, sometimes there is a place for drawing it along the back, like if I'm using a dark color and where I would be pin stitching it is a light color, then yeah, I don't do that because I don't want to risk the show through. Okay. 790. Okay, all of that I did just so I can do these last stitches and not close anything in. So yeah, it was quite a process actually. But I mean, all these stitches here, I would have to do them eventually anyway, so, you know, 6 of one and half dozen of the other, as they say. Okay. Yes, it looks like there'll be a bit of a block here, so that'll go faster. Block of color. Okay. Let's see if that one is threaded or not. No, it's not. Okay, so that means all of these, I'm going to set them aside. There, nice and neat. This batch of threads now. Not as much here. It's a little less daunting now. Yeah. But we will be adding some more pretty soon. Okay. Let's see what we've got here. So I've got colors that's kind of branching both ways off of this big block here. So I think I'm going to start from the left side in. Yeah. And then I'll work this way down and I'll add a new thread later when I'm doing the next diagonal, most likely. But yeah, sometimes I might decide to start from the right side and carry on that way. But this way means one less thread I have to deal with for the moment. So I'm going to start here from the left side, because I do the bottom legs and I come back and cross the top legs. So yeah, like I was saying, I was going to be adding some threads here. So here we go. 30, 41. Well, that one, if I've got a short piece, I'll just use it. This one is not going to be parked because it's only 2 stitches right next to each other, and then it's done. So this will not add to the overall number of threads I've got parked. Okay, 37.40. So this color I'm going to kind of loop around so that I don't close anything in. So I'm going to start it here. And then I'm going to, whoops, there we go. Pop up here to the top and then park. And then that way I can do the next color, that half shaded square color all at once, and I didn't close any of these in. Okay. There, I could do all these at once. I think this will be just the right length. Oh goodness, there we go. There we are. Yeah, just the right length. Okay, and then this one's really close to the edge, so I'm gonna draw it through the back of the stitches here rather than pin stitch it, because I don't want the thread to extend past the edge of the design there, potentially show through. Because yeah, I don't use a mat when I'm mounting these. I leave some space with the cloth forming sort of the frame, so I have to be careful that the ends aren't poking through. Although I suppose sometimes even if you have a mat, it doesn't go right up to the edge of the stitching, right? So you still want to make sure that you're not accidentally having ends appear. That's one thing I like about full coverage is as long as you move them towards the center, it's easier to hide ends. I found on ones that weren't, it could be tougher. Like if you had, you know, sort of one tiny little motif in the middle that was like a couple squares of dark color. Yeah, and I didn't know about pin stitches, and so it was kind of harder to hide your ends when there wasn't other stitching around it. Okay, this should be just long enough to do the one lone stitch, so I will park it. That's below my working area. I'm cutting it off here at 130 and moving across. So yeah, some people like to sort of keep taking their diagonal all the way across the pattern, but that would involve more moving of the frame for me, so I prefer to just do passes where I cut it off at a certain point and then start the next one. Once I get, you know, to the far edge, then come back and start another pass from this left edge. So, oops, there we go. That's better. Mm-hmm. $297. Okay. Let's see. Let's stitch to an even 300. What do you think? Oh, I did that one already. Haha, I just forgot to mark it. That's right. Don't go doing that again. Okay, perfect. Then these has 2 stitches left of this color, so that will give me a perfect even 300. Excellent. Well, maybe it turned out good that my first session that I recorded today wasn't usable because I made mistakes like half a dozen times on that one. This one I've done much better, so maybe that's because I stopped and had a snack, so maybe it was low blood sugar. Maybe I'll just stick to that explanation. All right, so make sure that I put this thread away. 779. There we go. And make sure, remember to mark that it's done. And there, now we have a perfect even 300. So that seems like a good place to stop. So as usual, thanks so much for joining me today. And I hope to see you here again another time. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.